10 years have passed, and Junseo has settled into a quiet life running a small study room for village children. But this quiet reality is disrupted when a young mother walks through his door, her eyes swollen from grieving the loss of her child. She is stuck in a painful holding pattern. She actively resists the idea of getting better because she fears that healing is just a polite word for forgetting. To her, moving forward feels like an act of erasure. Junseo recognizes this exact paralysis. A decade ago, he stood in his own garden, furious at a world that kept moving. He spent that afternoon frantically tearing every flower out of the soil, trying to force the external world to match his internal devastation. This suffering stems from the human impulse to cling to form. We try to freeze the people we love into a single, permanent state, attempting to hold them still as if life were a photograph rather than a process. Because we navigate the world through our senses, we often equate physical presence with existence itself. When a physical body changes or disappears, we interpret that transformation as an absolute deletion of the person's entire being. Locking onto a fixed physical form creates a trap. Instead of preserving love, it anchors the survivor to a moment that has already passed, preventing the natural flow of life from moving forward. Junseo leads the mother to a garden planted by the children. He asks her to look at a single blooming flower and consider if it is identical to the version of itself that existed yesterday. At a cellular level, the flower is a different entity than it was 24 hours ago. It has absorbed water, shed atoms, and grown toward the light. Human language uses a single name for the flower, but that name masks a state of constant, fluid change. This is emptiness. No object has an independent self. The flower is a temporary nexus of sunlight, soil, and water. Lacking a permanent core, it's defined by intersecting external conditions. Remove one condition, like water, and the form breaks down, redistributing into the broader system. The act of withering does not change the fact that the blooming occurred. The disappearance of the current form is merely the elements returning to the network of the universe. Years after Junseo destroyed his own garden, he stood on a mountain peak at dawn and saw the site again. It was no longer a patch of dirt. It was a flourishing expanse of thousands of flowers. The regeneration of this garden illustrates the central Buddhist observation: form is emptiness, and emptiness is form. This rebirth wasn't magic. While the surface looked empty for years, dormant seeds remained in the soil, meeting the rain and the intervention of new people. These conditions combined to create a new iteration of the garden. If the original garden had been a permanent, indestructible form, it would have occupied that space forever. There would have been no room for new seeds to interact with the soil and bloom into what the garden is today. The emptiness of the original garden, its capacity to be destroyed and to change, is the very thing that allowed new life and new connections to eventually emerge. In the present day, a child reaches out to pluck a new flower from the study room garden. Junseo gently stops the child's hand, not to hoard the flower, but to change how the child relates to it. Healing requires a shift in behavior. It means learning to participate in a form while it exists, without the destructive urge to possess it or stop its inevitable change. Junseo shares this with the mother. Her child's physical form has passed, but the influence that child had, the laughter, the lessons, and the love shared, continues to ripple through the people left behind. Letting go of the physical form allows the relationship to evolve. It moves from a static, painful memory of what was into a flowing, active part of the survivor's current life. The weight of loss lightens when the focus shifts. We stop looking for the shape that disappeared and start recognizing the enduring web of connections, the yin-yang, that remains in motion. Forms are temporary and will always dissolve, but the impact they leave on the world continues as a chain of cause and effect. Healing begins when we stop chasing a fixed image and start observing the ongoing flow.